What if growing older meant more joy, not less? Tune in as we talk with the author of Bursting with Happiness about how mindset, kindness, and a few daily bursts of joy can transform our lives and our aging journeys. Welcome to Aging Unscripted, a podcast with a different perspective on aging. Here we explore a wide range of topics aimed at celebrating, supporting, exploring, and honoring the aging journey. I'm Jill Vitale-Yassam, and I am privileged to serve as the president and CEO at Christian Living Communities, a nonprofit senior living and services organization based in Denver, Colorado. And in studio with me today is Pam Sullivan. Pam is our Vice President of Communications and Philanthropy. And joining us today as our very special guest is Lisa Dimino White. And Lisa is the author of Bursting with Happiness. Lisa is an experienced marketing, communications, and event management professional, a mom, a wife, a wedding officiant, and a professional coach that is known as the Joy Seeker. Well, I love the sound of that.
I know. Who else to be the Joy Seeker? I do.
And she is our neighbor, too. She's right here in the South Denver area. So welcome, Lisa. We're thrilled to have you here.
So happy to be here. Thank you.
So Lisa spoke at our recent leadership event.
And everyone loved it.
Everyone loved it.
Everyone loved it. I mean, there's so many comments about how really I need to seek these bursts of joy out every day. And it was such a good reminder that in the busyness of life that you can find them. What led you to do this?
I've always been a champion for people. I love people. I love humanity. I love encouraging people to find their joy, to be the happiest versions of themselves they've always dreamt of being. And even in my professional roles at organizations and associations, managing people, my favorite part of that was encouraging and empowering and inspiring them to be greater than they ever thought. And, you know, back in 2018 or so, I thought, you know, I love that. I want to turn that into doing more of it. How can I do that professionally, be a cheerleader for people, so to speak? And I went off and decided to become a consultant and, you know, kind of figured it out from trial and error on what my message was. And basically someone off the cuff called me, wow, you really are a joy seeker. And I was like, oh, this wasn't your own name. I mean, it wasn't, but I loved that because that's what I am. I try to inspire and encourage people to find that joy and to do whatever it is that makes them happy.
And such important work.
It is.
So important.
Too often we don't recognize our own greatness and we don't take the time to do the things that make us happy. And so my story is one where, you know, I've had people over the years, you know, wow, you really are optimistic and you're positive. You know, that must be just who you are and everything must be great in your world. And I'm like, that is a misconception. And when COVID happened, I struggled with that a lot. And I always knew I had a book in me. So I thought, why not take this time to make that dream a reality? But also, and more importantly, why don't I honestly share the struggles that I have? Mm-hmm. Because the fact that I'm not sharing my struggles kind of contributes to this ridiculous idea that only people whose lives go exactly the way they want can be joyful.
Right.
And so my thought was, if I share my struggles, people can see themselves in that. We may not share the same struggles, but they can be joyful despite whatever it is they're going through. And I had some friends tell me that afterward, and oh, it was just wonderful. They had no idea, and they're like, wow, you're inspiring me to accept what it is about me that I don't love, either deal with it, improve it, or just let it go and find joy despite my challenges.
And before we start just tapping into what you just said, and before we get into this conversation, because I don't want people listening to this to be, there's that whole idea of toxic positivity, like everything's great, right? And everything's on fire.
Everything's just fine.
Right. So before we even get into this, because because sometimes that can turn people off.
Right, for sure.
Right. And so will you talk a little bit about that and what the difference between what you're talking about and what can be toxic positivity?
I would never tell somebody to ignore their challenges or their struggles. I mean, we know that if we don't deal with them, they're going to come up in some way, physically, emotionally. I mean, our bodies have a way of expressing pain and discomfort and things that we struggle with. But my point is, bring it to the surface and to think about it in a way that, okay, my thought is we can either change or accept the things about us that we struggle with. And if we want to change the things that we don't love, that are keeping us from being as joyful as we know we can be, come up with a plan. Let's figure out, do we need professional help? Is there a support organization? Are there friends we can talk to? Find a way to change what we don't love, improve the situation. Conversely, there's the accept side. Maybe it's something that, it kind of bugs me, but it's not keeping me from being as joyful as I want to be. Then let it go. If it's something that you put pressure on yourself to improve, but really has no bearing on your joy factor, then there's power in just saying, for now, I'm going to be okay with the fact that I'm not a good cook.
Yeah,
I don't care.
even something big. Like I think about my mom, when she was alive, she had lost her vision. And that is huge, right? And she went through really, really dark times.
Yeah.
And she found joy.
Yeah.
Right? In bursts of joy and found ways to find, who am I going to be? Yeah. Right? How am I going to have the best life I can? Yeah. But if she hadn't, you got to go through the hard times. Mm-hmm. But if you 100%. Don't do the work to say, okay, this is the situation I'm in now, and how do I find what has meaning and joy, then you're in a pit forever, right?
And you don't push it down.
Right.
That's what you
have to let
so many people push it down just to try and get through, right?
Yeah.
You can acknowledge it, and it always will suck, let's say. It really does stink, the situation at hand.
Right.
But then, you got to work through it, whether that's with a professional or with someone you trust, or maybe in journaling, to get to a point where you can say, okay, it is what it is. How can I find joy through this?
Yes.
In spite of it. And there's other ways to find joy, and let me be intentional about finding them.
Yeah. And everything you're talking about is self.
Yeah.
You haven't mentioned other. So really joy is self.
I believe it is.
Yeah, it's really got to come intrinsically in from who you are. I can't depend on another person to do it for you.
Sometimes people will bring us bursts of joy, and that's wonderful.
Right.
Oh my goodness, yes, but we can't rely on other people for that, because we can't rely on other people to control our happiness.
Right.
We have to take control and be intentional about it. And the more we can do that, the happier lives we have. And the burst of joy concept, if for me, it's the way I've defined it is the simple things that make you excited, give you something to look forward to. If you're learning the piano and the idea of sitting down at the piano makes you miserable, that's not a burst of joy. No, it's not. It's a responsibility that you feel like you have to do, not a burst of joy. The burst of joy is, wow, I get to watch an episode of the show that I've been binging. Tonight in bed, I'm going to put my jammies on and I'm going to watch this. That's a burst of joy. Mm-hmm. A song, Barry Manilow perhaps, that you enjoy.
Barry Manilow. I love that you bring him up.
I love him. Burst of joy.
About you, yes.
Burst of joy. Whatever it is, the silly, almost tiny, insignificant things, because the more of those we can bring into our lives, the happier lives we have. There's a lot of things we can't control in this world.
And how many of us get caught up in joy as a production? Oh, like, the big party, the big event. And really what you're saying is look for the small things. Yes. And I think that is so important, especially when you are faced with challenges. Yeah. There's things happening in your life you can't control.
That's right.
Really look for those small things, because if you rely on the big things, sometimes those get stripped away from you.
Absolutely. Or they never happen.
Right.
And are you just supposed to waste time between the big events of life that bring you joy? I mean, how terrible is that? Mm-hmm. And sometimes we just have to put ourselves in a situation and really just open ourselves up to the possibility of joy. I mean, there are things about us that we don't even know.
Right? If you allow yourself,
yes,
there's joy and beauty in many, many things, even in darkness, right? Even in hard times.
Of course.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to hear what you think about this. So there has been a lot of research done. Yale University researchers have studied the way we look at aging.
Yeah.
And so now I am not a researcher, so I'm going to summarize this in Jill language. But basically what they found is that people who view aging as a time of momentum, possibilities, that there are good things that come with aging, versus those who look at it and expect and just see decline and see everything bad. The people that view it in a more positive way, they found live on average 7.5 years longer.
I believe that. Yeah.
I mean, that's mind-blowing, right?
It is.
That is huge.
That's to you, be it over matter. For sure.
So what do you think is behind that?
Yeah.
Like from you, the work that you do.
You know, I have coaching clients who, it runs the gamut. I have some folks who are struggling and only look at the negative and just focus on that. And they're a little depressing, and we try to find the burst of joy, but they have a challenge to look for that. Versus those who are, you know, maybe facing a similar situation, but yet they're optimistic. They're looking for opportunities. They're, you know, maybe seeing joy in spaces where it wouldn't necessarily have been before, or they would not have necessarily recognized it. I mean, there's study after study where they say you go toward your focus. So like the group, like the folks who maybe are looking for the negative, if you look for negative every day, day in and day out, that's what you're going to find.
Right.
And that doesn't feel good. But conversely, if you look for the positives, if you look for the joy, if you look for the opportunities, the happiness, even if it looks different from what you maybe thought the joy or the happiness would look like, if you're open to that possibility, your body's going to feel great. I mean, who doesn't love feeling that invigorated feeling of happiness?
So it all sounds really awesome. And it sounds like what's good for any age is to find this joy. But how do you get yourself out of that negative place? What's the tips you have for like flipping the script, or kind of getting to that place where you can recognize or seek and get yourself to what feels authentic and not manufactured?
For me and my experience in coaching folks and even personally is acceptance. And to get to acceptance, how do you get to that place? Whether, again, professional work or through meditation or journaling, how do you get to a place where you can say, you know what, this situation is not ideal. I'm not thrilled with it. However, I have a choice. I can either go down the path of misery and continue to dwell and constantly ruminate over how unfair, how unhappy it is, how unlucky I am. Or you can say, it is what it is. I'm going to accept it, and I'm going to embrace the opportunities that I do have now. And that, I think, when somebody could truly say, because we're not saying it's fair, whatever happened.
Right.
But life isn't fair.
Life just isn't fair.
No,
I mean, it's just not.
Yeah.
But what we do with that, and I'm not saying anything that no one has ever heard before. I mean, we've all heard this stuff before. So I'm not pretending to be the only person and the first person to come up with this idea. But again, it's just so empowering when you see someone go through that thought process of, this stinks. And I'm like, yeah, it stinks. 100%. You're not going to get any argument from me. But what do we do now? How do we move forward? Do you want to continue this space, or do you want to figure out a way to find joy despite the situation?
So for those of us in aging services, how do we support each other? Because the work can sometimes be hard,
Sure.
right? Support each other, but also inspire that in the people we're providing services for. Because I think sometimes, you know, we see this in our communities. We have a different perspective on aging.
course.
We really are about the positivity, being age positive, that you can still do things. We ask people, what are you planning to contribute when you come into our communities? And they're kind of blown away, like,
Love
what?
it.
But how do we inspire and model this so that it becomes contagious across our communities and across our workforces?
I love that. Well, amongst your staff, I think the importance is to be intentional about reminding your colleagues about the impact of the work that you're doing. I mean, day in and day out, how could you not feel joy based on knowing that you're making a difference in so many people's lives? Getting back to the core reason why they do the work, why they're there every single day. I think that, and acknowledgement and appreciation and gratitude, because people want to feel needed. They want to feel like what they're doing makes a difference. And then as it relates to your residents, again, everyone wants to feel connected. Everyone wants to feel appreciated, seen. So, you know, I firmly believe that the more joy we can create in a space where people feel good about who they are, the happier lives we all have. And so is there a way to acknowledge a resident? Maybe you have someone who is the best storyteller in your community. You know, having someone just offhandedly, you know, I just love visiting with you because the stories you provide just light me up. I could be here for hours listening to you and what you want to share. How wonderful would that person feel knowing that someone at the center feels that they have such wonderful stories to contribute. So acknowledging people's gifts. I mean, even if it's something like you've got a resident who's got a great sense of humor, or maybe she's got just a great sense of fashion and she takes pride in her fashion, acknowledge it because that's important to her. And so I feel like if we acknowledge people for what they have and what they do and what they're bringing to the table, especially as we get older and maybe don't feel like we can contribute in a way that we used to contribute to the world. Maybe you have someone who comes to every event and they're always excited. I mean, acknowledging that.
And I remember you talking about acknowledging and complimenting. Huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
And you think about, we see this a lot, and it goes back to what Pam said about when you think about aging, when we think about senior living as being a place where you don't have anything to give back. Your job is to sit back and be served and taken care of.
And have fun.
That takes away the opportunity to have meaning and purpose,
Right.
which brings joy. And we see that, like some of the people that I've seen struggle the most are people that they feel like nobody needs them and they don't have any gifts to share. But when they start to find it, then you're like, whoa, who is this person? And I love that when you
know,
see that.
who was going through my mind? I was reflecting on Jean and her rum cakes.
Oh, yeah. See,
Yes, there was a resident who's famous for her rum cakes.
There you go.
And every acknowledgement of a team member, any of our auctions, she would give us a rum cake. I mean, it was just wonderful.
But at one point, she said, I don't have anything to offer this world.
Yeah.
And then we were like, yes,
Are you
do.
kidding me?
And then
Right.
she became joyful.
She became very joyful, the rum cake
it's
lady.
Pretty powerful.
Everybody wants to contribute. Everybody has something they can bring to the world, whether it's a rum cake or a sense of humor or a great story.
Yeah, definitely.
And people just need to feel like other people have noticed that.
Yes. That's so important to remember that we notice it and say something.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. So one of the other really interesting studies is, and I'm sure you're aware of this, is what's called the happiness curve.
Love it.
I was just thinking.
Right? When you are, and what they found was self-reported well-being from people throughout lifespan in different ages is when you're younger, you have pretty good well-being. So I want people out there to imagine this, right? It's like a smile. It's like a smile, a curve. And then as you go down, you hit the pit, which is like the age we are right now. Early 50s.
Do you think I feel like trying out of it?
I do too.
The kids
it's
are
late 40s, early 50s. And then as people get older and older, and I think they study it through people in their 80s.
Wow.
Your self-reported well-being is higher than it was when you're in your, prime of your
the prime of
what
your
you
life.
call, and you're using air quotes for those the prime of your life.
Right.
And that's so interesting, and people don't know that.
Wow.
Right? And so why do you think that might increase as people get older?
It's a great question. I love that. I love that idea. Part of me thinks, okay, so when you're older, the responsibilities aren't as heavy on your shoulders. The kids are perhaps grown and, maybe you're no longer working, maybe you're retired. So maybe there's more time to create those bursts of joy for yourselves. Hopefully people do that. Hopefully they take that opportunity to lean in to whatever
Do
it
what
is.
they love. Yeah. I've had residents, I ask people this. And I have perspective now, and I know it's
It's the letting go.
I'm not going to worry about that because that doesn't matter.
That doesn't matter. That's right.
And
I think it's the acceptance piece and it's the letting go.
Yeah.
Because everything that was so darn important.
Yes.
Keeping up with the Joneses just kind of melts away after a while.
So true.
And you kind of release yourself to feel more joyful.
right. Even during the pandemic, there were people who were like, I've lived through worse than this. Right. You youngster, you guys don't understand.
That's
like,
right.
we're going to be okay.
Right.
And so maybe there's that
experience.
The longer we live, then we have more perspective. I don't know. It's very
And the stronger you get, and the more you've been through, the more you can be like, oh,
resilience.
I got this. I've been through X, Y, and Z over my lifetime. This is a piece of cake.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Jill mentioned the living longer 7 years, but what have you seen with the people you've worked with who kind of turn the corner, become more joyful? What's been the impact on their health?
Oh my gosh. I mean,
It's so important. Thank you for asking that.
when people take the time to own their joy, when they take ownership over it. I mean, it can be as simple as maybe you've got a project that you were dreading, that you are just like, I can't do it. I had a client who had a basement, and she had been putting this basement renovation off for years. And it wasn't even a renovation. I mean, it was basically, she wanted to turn it into her kids' play area. And it had been a disaster for years. And it's like, okay, let's break it down. How do we get this going? How do we make progress? And of course, we broke it down and we came up with plans and strategies, and we had accountability. So, every week we checked in, and once she got that momentum, once she took ownership and had some feelings of empowerment, of control over the situation, you could see it. I could see it in our conversations. And then she started taking risks in other areas because she felt like she was getting control over the chaos, if you will. Mm-hmm. And it was so great because I'm sitting back and I'm watching it. It started with the basement, and it got to a point where she was able to actually use it for the purpose that she wanted. And then she decided to apply for a job that she thought, in her words, was way above her, ended up getting it.
Wow.
And I'm like, who is this person?
Yeah.
I mean, yay, because she believed in herself.
Yeah.
So the more we can believe in ourselves and really acknowledge the fact that we can do hard things. Yeah. One step at a time. It just makes people feel more confident in other parts of their lives too.
So do you see that impacting physical health?
Absolutely. I mean, people.
So if you're confident, maybe you're going to get out
better
and do
care of yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and another thing that I love to share with people, it's a concept that I have termed reduce the suck. And I love this because there are things that we don't.
That should be a bumper sticker.
I love it, right? Reduce the suck. And what I mean by this is, yes, we know we should exercise more. Yes, we know we should eat healthy. Great. How can we do the thing that we want to do, but we need that little extra bit of motivation to make it a little less miserable? And for me, it's going for a walk, going for a run, getting on the treadmill, getting on the step machine. It's like, gosh, would I rather not? Yes, but I know that I'll feel great afterward and I need to do it. So I have some podcasts and audiobooks that I love, and I do not allow myself to listen unless I'm walking or doing the
little carrot you're making for yourself.
That's right. Yeah. Okay, I'm dying to know what's going to happen next in this chapter. Okay, Lisa, get your sneakers on because it ties something that I really would rather not with something that I want to do. It reduces the suck of the thing that I need to do. And so people have used this concept. They're like, I hate yard work. It's not anything. I'm like, okay, well, what would make it better? And they're like, well, I love, one guy who's like, I love Metallica. It's like, well, pop in your earbuds, listen to Metallica, mow the lawn. He's like, why haven't I thought of that? I'm like, dude, reduce the suck. My favorite example ever is this gal I was working with, and she had to move her kids' stuff from her storage unit to the apartment that she got. And so she was dreading the idea of getting the truck, renting the truck, putting the boxes in. It's a whole thing. I'm like, how can we reduce the suck? So you know what she did? Oh my gosh. She rented a cherry red Mustang convertible.
To be her
put
moving
the top
truck?
down, moved the boxes, put the top down, cranked the tunes, made it a day. She's like, went back and forth maybe 3-4 times. Was it as efficient?
No, but
Of course
it was
not.
more fun.
But she said it was the best day she's had in months because it was
love
just
that.
a day of fun and joy, and she got that darn project done.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
Yes, that
I
is
think that you
awesome.
do see examples of that, though. Like, what flashed in my mind is the people battling cancer, and they're all dressed up and they're just going in for their chemo and they're just like making a day out of it and trying to make it as best as they can.
Exactly.
Perfect example.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I have a new trick for my exercise.
I love it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So other couple of things that we wanted to make sure we talked about today, and that is what role, I know you talked with us about how important kindness is in joy, finding joy, and also connectedness,
Yes.
right? And those two things go together.
Yes.
Will you talk a little bit about that?
I mean, we're all so much more alike than we're not. And so when we feel connected, whether it's in a family or a community or a group of friends, I mean, there's magic in that, knowing that other people are going through similar things, or we have people that we can connect with and maybe help us out when we're struggling with something. So again, creating those connections, those commonalities. I love the example of, bringing people together and putting them in a room who seem to have nothing in common. And I love to challenge them. I want you to find something, anything. And the more quirky, the better. And during the conversation, there's often laughter, humor, joy, and connection. They come out of it feeling like they belong in a new, unique way. And now, from now on, they have a new perception of who this person is and some of the commonalities that they share. And I feel like the more we can bring those to the surface, the better we all will be. I think it's one small thing we can do to improve the world right now.
Well, and I think for children, it's manufactured for us automatically with school, right? Those opportunities are there. Right. But once you're out of college or whatever, there is some in the workplace, but not every workplace has that.
Yeah.
And then as you go through your work and you retire, you have to figure those things out. So that connectedness and that kindness, any sage words of advice. I mean, we need to help people come connected. I mean, we know the world feels the most lonely right now.
When there's not the structure of school or work and you're retired, perhaps.
Yes. What does that look like?
Well, and I think it's not putting too much pressure on ourselves to try something different. I mean, I'm sure your communities have programs and clubs and groups that people can join. And for those who aren't in your community, I mean, it's just a matter of being intentional. Again, it's that intention. Maybe you'll find a group that, maybe you're into mahjong or crocheting. I mean, there are people out there.
Yes,
probably
group. Well, if there isn't a group, do that one. Yeah, right.
And so what's the worst that can happen? You go, you're like, yeah, it's not for me. Fine.
Totally fine.
Fine. But you might meet some people that you never thought you'd meet.
Well, Jill and I just recently both moved to new neighborhoods, and I knew nobody.
Yeah.
And we lived by a lake, so we formed a paddle. We call ourselves the Yacht Club, and we're just a bunch of women.
My neighborhood isn't as cool as
Well,
that.
we're just a bunch of women who half are retired, half are not, and we go out and paddleboard. And I don't get to go as often because I'm working, but that's okay. And so I think we're going to go out and paddleboard.
Yeah.
They go out float in the middle of the lake. But they're connecting, right? They're connecting, and it was just an informal way.
Yes.
We all live near a lake. Let's make the best of it, right?
Yes.
So that's kind of how that naturally goes. And you get together with dinner clubs or something like that.
Well, we get together. We do all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
We
So I
have a
think
great
it is
neighborhood.
being intentional.
Being intentional. And at a minimum, connectivity can happen in a text too. I mean, I think sometimes we're like, well, I can't dedicate 2 hours to a phone conversation, or I don't have time to meet someone for coffee. But, if somebody crosses your mind, a quick text. I mean, especially maybe an old friend or a neighbor that you haven't connected with in a while. Hey, I'm thinking of you. Again, it just makes someone feel thought of, and that alone will create joy for them.
I love it. That's not that hard.
No.
We all know how to text.
We do.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do. Lisa, what piece of advice would you leave our listeners with today at finding joy at every age? What do you want to leave people with?
So many things. I mean, I'm a champion of people. I believe that the majority of people are just so wonderful and kind and just we're a great species, if you will. I would challenge your listeners to question what they believe will bring them joy. Give something new a try. I mean, we are not the same people we've always been.
Yes.
And there are things about us that maybe would never have brought us joy before, but holy smokes, this current version of you would pretty much love it. So not to be afraid to try something different. You may still not enjoy it, and that's okay, but take the risk to try something a little outside your comfort zone because it might bring you some unexpected joy. When I was doing a talk a few months ago, a gal came up to me and she said, funniest story about that. She went to Vegas with her husband and some friends, and they're like, yeah, we're going to go to a boxing event. And she's like, are you serious right now? They're like, yeah, we're going to go. She's like, well, fine. I mean, I'll go, whatever. She is the biggest boxing fan ever. She's like, it was the greatest thing I've ever seen. I'm like, okay. But it was something she never dreamt she would find joy in. And she's like, I loved it. And I'm like, great. It's very violent, but if you loved it, you do you. And so the moral of the story is if somebody would have told her this is going to be something you're going to love, she would never have believed it. But she allowed herself to experience it because the opportunity presented itself. Bada bing, bada boom, she's a huge fan. So you never know.
Yes, more often.
I continue to evolve, right? That's so important as we live our lives.
So we're going to have a link to Lisa's website
Great.
and your book in the podcast notes. So
And if anybody's looking for a speaker for an event, we really recommend
you.
this.
we do.
It's a lot of fun.
And her book.
Yeah, our team was very inspired. So
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here with us
Thank
today,
you. Thank
Lisa.
you for all you do.
I feel full of joy after this conversation. And we so appreciate our listeners and viewers joining us today for Aging Unscripted. A reminder that aging is indeed unscripted. Please subscribe to our podcast on your favorite channel and share with other people that you think might benefit from this information. Don't forget to go to Lisa's website, pick up her book. And remember, each of us has a journey with aging that is as individual as we are. And not everyone gets that gift of aging. And we really believe 100% this is a sacred phase of life that should be honored and celebrated. Thanks for joining us today.